This podcast was recorded by BKRPodcast.com.
Welcome to the Carl Nelson Show
on Washington, D.C.'s 1450 WOL Radio and live around the world on WOLDCnews.com.
And thank you for joining us today, folks. Staying with us. You can also reach us on Facebook and Twitter, CarlNelsonShow.com. Our guest straight up is Lee Bailey, the voice. And when you hear him speak, you'll understand why I say he's the voice. Lee, welcome to WOL.
Hi, Carl. It's good to be talking to you.
Lee's, you got everybody cracking up, Lee.
I can't help it, Carl.
I know. Just, some people are just born with those. They're born with those pipes. and just for full disclosure, Lee is indeed an old friend. Has been in the radio business for quite a while. You know, I'm just looking at your bio, and it says that you were inspired by Al G. Al G was actually my first program director. Put me on the air for the first time. I didn't know that.
Wow. Where?
Yeah. LIB.
Where?
LIB.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I met Al G at the beginning. What I presume is the beginning of his career. When I was just a tyke growing up in Pittsburgh, he encouraged me to get into radio. I used to go out to. It was at a station called WZUM. We called it Zoom. I don't think, as a matter of fact, that wasn't the beginning of his career because he moved there from somewhere else, now that I think about it. And I was in high school, and I was just enamored with radio. And I used to be well, you know, back in the day, they used to, maybe they still do call them gophers.
Mm-hmm.
Cats who would, you know, cats and girls who would hang out at the radio station and go for this. The jock would send you to go for this and go for that. I enjoyed my time just hanging out at the station. But in any event, Al and a number of people, Bobby Bennett is from there as well, and he was there for a minute. And they all encouraged me to, get into radio, and it finally happened. I joined the Air Force and got stationed in Sacramento, and sort of the same thing happened. I would make friends with the jocks and go there, and as a result, they said, "Man, you have a great voice. You should think about being a DJ." And at the time, I was, you know, just a youngster, scared. Didn't have the confidence to follow through. But over time, as I got older and got matured, it dawned upon me that they were telling me something that made sense, and I started going for it. And here I am today, talking to Carl Nelson.
No, you are. This
I've arrived.
You arrived a long time ago. This is one of the most successful black broadcasters there is, Lee Bailey. A lot of you might remember from Radioscope back in those days. That was one of the first syndicated kind of radio programs out, if I'm not
right.
correct.
Yeah, we came on air in 1983 in Los Angeles. I think we debuted on KACE. You were at KJLH in L.A., and then after about a year or two or three or something like that, we transitioned over to KJLH. I'm not sure how long you were there well, when did you leave, by the way?
I started when Stevie actually bought the station. I started.
Okay.
So, you know.
Okay.
And I'll tell that story another time, how you met me one day and said, actually in front of Crenshaw with Herbie Hancock, and says, "I just bought this radio station, and he's come and work for me. We need a news department. I just don't want to play music. You know, radio's not a jukebox." And he's giving me his vision of radio and all that. So, yeah, it's an interesting story.
So you were just walking down the street, and
no. Actually, he called me and told me to meet me at the station. I was working at a rock station in Long Beach, heavy metal rock station at the time. I'm going to grad school. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And he says, "I remembered you from New York, LIB, BLS, you know, and we got to make this happen, you know." And gave his plans for the King holiday and what we got to do. I said, "Okay, I'm down."
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I learned something. I'm sure I'm going to learn a whole lot before it's over. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, but so you started Radioscope back then, because I remember Radioscope. But you know what? I noticed you have now put in, which I think is probably one of your finest achievements. You know, and that is King, From Atlanta to the Mountaintop. I didn't see that in your bio.
Get out. Really?
Yeah.
Well, we need to correct that.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you for making me aware of that. You know how it is. You see something all the time, and you don't see the obvious or something that's right there in front of you or that should be in front of you, and you don't see it. I thank you for bringing that up. I had no clue that was not in the bio. Maybe we edited it. Must have been edited out or something, because I'm sure that was in there at one point. And of course, over the years, I've tried to trim the bio down and edit this and that, and I guess probably inadvertently left that part out. But that, you're right, that's our crowning achievement besides Radioscope, so we definitely need to get that back in there.
Of course, that's an award-winning documentary for radio. Well, how would you describe it?
It's what we call a docudrama is how we describe it. It was a 3-hour program where it's a documentary, bottom line, a audio documentary where we document the life of Dr. Martin Luther King, but we would add an extra step in that we had, I guess you would call them skits, where we would reenact some portions of Dr. King's life, so on and so forth. So that's where the drama comes in, because, quite frankly, the civil rights movement is filled with drama from beginning to end. Still is today, for that matter. Life is drama. So we took the liberty to call it a docudrama, and it's, like I said, been an award winner. And I have to thank you, because over the years you've definitely shown us a lot of love and supported us and aired the program on all the stations you've been in charge of. So we really appreciate that.
And it went, I got to tell you, went over real big. I mean, year after year on the holiday, on the King holiday. I know we did it for years in L.A., and then in Florida we did it as well, and it went over real big. People loved it.
Well, thank you again. Thank you, sir. I really, really appreciate that. Well, you know, it was a labor of love, and it was amazing to me when we put the program together, or as putting it together. I began to see and learn how everything fell into place, that whole civil rights movement. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was only his tenure in charge was about 12 years, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe, I think it was pretty much under 20. But what he accomplished in that time period is just nothing short of amazing.
Yeah, it was, and how you did it. I mean, it was talk about radio vision. That's what it was. That docudrama was great. Is it still running? It's still available for stations?
Well, it's still available. So everybody that wants it, it's available for the radio stations to air every year. People can also go to kingprogram.net. If they would like to purchase a copy of it, they can hear samples of it at the website before they purchase, to get a taste of what it is if they haven't heard it before. So, yeah, kingprogram.net is where one can go to purchase copies. And, of course, if you'd like to play it again this coming King holiday, we would be honored. So, but we'll talk about that.
All right, yeah, we will. Because
pressure on you now.
But it's good. It's great. I approve of it. I recommend it hands down. But I want to talk to you about the EUR web that you've got, because you seems like you are way ahead of the game when it comes to the internet. How did that come about?
Thank you. We started that as an adjunct, I guess, for Radioscope. It began life as Radioscope's Electronic Urban Report, hence the name EUR, which is Electronic Urban Report. And after a while, it took off on its own and established its own identity, so we just dropped the Radioscope part. Plus, to be honest, I was going through a divorce at the time, and me and the Mrs. Were having issues over things that came under the company Lee Bailey Communications. So I sort of had a hint that the future was online as far as we're concerned. And so that was another reason why I decided to split that off from Radioscope and create it, have it stand on its own. And that was a good decision. It's grown tenfold since then. That was in 1996, something like that.
Right. Before all these websites, and folks, before all these other websites, what is it, Media Takeout and all these other ones, these urban websites came about, this one was here before all of that. It's probably grandfather, and still one of the best sites.
I get that label a lot of times, the grandfather of urban internet and all that kind of stuff. It's weird. I'm not exactly a spring chicken, but it's still weird to be thought of as being a grandfather or a pioneer or somebody who's thought of as
hang on a second, Lee.
Lee,
hang on a second. We got to take a break here, and we got traffic and weather coming up, folks. You can talk to Lee Bailey. You want to talk about radio or the internet? 800-450-7876. We'll take your calls right after this quick break.
This podcast was recorded by BKRPodcast.com.
And thank you for staying with us, folks. And, of course, you know how to reach us on Facebook and Twitter at CarlNelsonShow.com. Our guest is the voice, Lee Bailey. And, Lee, I already got a tweet question for you. A young man wants to know how to get in the business these days.
Oh, my God. Which business is he talking about? Radio or internet? Or
I think he's talking about radio.
Oh. That's always an interesting question because there are different ways to do it. I think probably what makes the most sense is to enroll in broadcasting courses at your local college or community college. And then I think the most strategic thing to do is to become an intern at either one station or as many stations as your schedule will allow. Prove your value, and chances are real good. If you are good, you're either going to get a job with one of those stations, or you're going to be in a position to make a demo tape and mail it out. Maybe mail isn't the right word these days. I guess maybe put it online and send email, I guess, to different program directors at different stations with a link to your video online, not video, to your demo online for them to listen to. But to me, like I say, the most important thing is to get that experience as an intern, to be in that atmosphere, to be around people who can show you and teach you, or just absorb stuff on because you're there by osmosis. That's sort of what happened to me when I was telling you earlier I would hang around the stations. It's a simple thing where people will begin to trust you. If you're a trustworthy person, people will trust you, and before you know it, you're in the production room doing this, doing that, maybe even doing interview making. Who knows? I mean, just any number of things that you'll end up doing, getting invaluable experience that will help you to become the broadcaster that you want to become. I think that's the best way to do it. So start out with taking courses at community college and go from there. Or if there is a broadcasting school, I guess a private broadcasting school in your area, see, that's something I don't know that they exist anymore. Back in the day when we were coming along, you had Columbia School of Broadcasting,
right?
You know, American Broadcasting, which I thought was kind of a ripoff. But at least you had schools, private schools, that taught you the basics, and you could go from there. I don't think they exist anymore, either those companies or the concept of private broadcasting schools. I don't believe they exist anymore. But as far as community college, do community colleges exist?
They call them junior colleges now.
Junior college, yeah.
And some of them have even dropped junior as well.
Yeah, that's right. I was I'm distracting myself. I just somebody. I got an email about getting a bachelor's degree at a junior college, which changes the whole concept. How can you get a bachelor's degree at a junior college? That was interesting. But in any event, before I distract myself again, like they say, stop me before I kill again. That's the way to go as far as I'm concerned.
Lee, what about the new media now? Because you've got people who are doing radio stations out at the garages. They're on the air. and legitimate. I'm not talking about the pirate stations now. And now you've also got the advent of low power FM coming on.
Yeah.
Fact, they speak there.
Yeah, there you certainly have all of these opportunities, and they're great. The biggest problem you have with them, as far as the online stations, now low power, and not even low power, it's all about promotion. Like they say, location. People have to know you're there. That's the biggest challenge with any kind of endeavor, any kind of business, or even just being a human being. If you're trying to brand yourself or stand out, people have to know you're there. So that's the hard part in getting people to know that you exist. Now, of course, once they know you exist, you have to have what they want in order for them to want to experience you. So that's a whole nother thing. But the good part is all of these opportunities exist now. And going back to what I just thought about it, what you were asking about the young man who wanted to know how to get on the radio, that's something I hadn't thought about. That's an excellent way right there, is to start your own radio station online. Anybody can do it. There are a number of websites where you can set it up. Was it Live365 or something like that, .com, Live365.com? I believe that's the URL. Anybody can set up a radio station there, or you can set up your own website, and there's software that you can download for free, so on and so forth. So in that scenario, you would set up your own website, pretty much just go in there and do what you do, practice. You could consider it practicing, I guess, and start there. And from that point, depending on how good you are, how good you think you are, you could record yourself and then take it or send it to commercial stations like yours, your over-the-air stations, or to some of these low-power stations that are going to be needing talent. So that's another way of getting into the industry, now that I think about it.
Right, because they're always looking for content, looking for good radio stations, regardless of, they're always looking for good content, at least, to put on the air.
Yeah, okay. That, I didn't think about it from that point of view. I guess I was thinking the traditional thing of him maybe wanting to be a DJ. But yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that. He could come up with a program, a concept like I did with Radioscope, or like you're doing a talk show, or who knows what. Propose that, or go ahead and do it, come up with a real attractive demo, and then shop that to different radio stations, or either over the air or online, who knows. So that you're right. I mean, we're living in an age now where if you've got the creative capacity, you can pretty much write your own ticket or come up with a vehicle that will get you in the front door. I mean, maybe somebody might not buy it, and not everybody's going to buy it, but it'll get you entrees in front of the people who are looking for content, because like you say, everybody, large or small, as if you're a radio station or some kind of communications outlet, you need content, period.
You mentioned that people have to find out what you're doing. What was the seed that made you want to do Radioscope? Because you were at the time, you were at Q102. You were in L.A. on one of the top radio stations at the time, and I remember you. And then all of a sudden, you branched out into Radioscope. What was it that you saw? Because you look like you could see the future as far as Radioscope and the Electronic Urban Report is concerned. You're ahead of everybody else.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was just a situation when it came, as far as Radioscope was concerned. Like you say, I was a jock at Q102, KUTE, and I was on from 8 to midnight. And, my thing was I always liked to give information. Back in the day, if you recall, a lot of the jocks, like we were talking about Al G, they were rhymers. Frankie Crocker and cats like that, put more glide in your stride, and just, stuff like that, which I was never really good at it. It just wasn't really me. So if it wasn't time and temperature, I knew I had to have something to say. And I was always curious about the music and the people who made the music and the industry, just whatever. I've always been curious about stuff like that. So I would find tidbits out of Billboard magazine and the different publications and Jack the Rapper, whatever I could find, wherever, from the industry publications and even L.A. Times or Soul magazine, whatever. I would just start talking about that to the audience, and then maybe a little 10, 15, 30-second segments or so, or over the intro of a song, or just drop something. And pretty soon, people start calling. They want to know about this, want to know about that. And so I started thinking, maybe the idea of a program, and of course, radio entertainment news was not exactly unheard of. Back in the day, you had your Hedda Hoppers and other people over the years, but there was nothing being done, to my knowledge, and from a black perspective. So it gave me the idea to try it. So I put together a demo based on what I thought people might like, and sent it around to different stations, different program directors, and they all liked it. I remember sending it I came up with the idea of a half-hour program and put together a demo. It also helped that I was am I babbling here? Am I taking too long?
No. In fact, I'll tell you what, hang on a sec, because we're coming up on a break, and I'll let you, you can hit the post then on the other side. Folks, you can join our conversation about radio, the music industry, the entertainment industry with Lee Bailey. We call him the voice in the business. 800-450-7876. Or you can hit me up on Facebook and Twitter at carlnelsonshow.com. We'll take your calls right after this quick break.
This podcast was recorded by BKRPodcast.com.
And thank you for staying with us, folks. And, of course, you can always reach us on Facebook and Twitter at carlnelsonshow.com. Our guest is the voice, Lee Bailey from Radioscope. Lee, you were telling us before the break the vision that you had for Radioscope.
Right. And you keep calling me the voice, I'm going to start believing it. I'm not sure exactly where I left off at, but I put together. I was going to say that it also helped in my case. I had time to develop the idea, because I had my own production studio and facility in the garage of my home, because at that point I had started a radio or audio production company. So I had the wherewithal to take time and figure out where I want to go with it and how to do it, so on and so forth. So I came up with a finished demo that was about a half hour long, because the concept at that point was to do a half-hour weekly program. So I sent it to Tom Joyner, a lot of people, but Tom Joyner was one of them. He loved it, but he says, I'd like to run this, but do you have like a short-form version? Because I'd like to do it Monday through Friday or every day. And I hadn't even thought about that. To me, that never even occurred to me somebody would even want that, because I was just so accustomed to I guess the syndicated programs being weekend only. So, and he said that. I said, wow, that is a good idea. So why don't I develop a daily version, a 3.5, 2.5, 3.5 minute daily or 5-minute daily version, which I did. Sent it back to him. He liked it, so I sent it to other program directors. They liked the idea. Some liked the short form version. Some liked the long form version. Some liked both. So I said, okay, well, let's do both. And that's how it was born. We went on the air, I think, with 30 affiliates. And the important thing was, I always remember, I got agreements from everybody from the top 3 markets, L.A., New York, L.A., and Chicago. And it was, we didn't look back. And we were on the air. Radioscope ran. Always, like I say, it's on hiatus. As at this point, but we ran from 1983 to 2005, which is a pretty good run when you think about it for any kind of a program, radio or TV, and even a syndicated program. So wow. We were blessed.
Yes, amazing. Then you started the electronic urban report. It was called EURweb.com. Those of you in front of your computers, you can check it out. All the news that you want to find out what's going on in Black America, this is where you go, EURweb.com. And interestingly enough, you did not confine this website to just to entertainment.
No, it's. I guess you could say it's primarily entertainment, but we like to think of it as infotainment, so information that's entertaining and so on and so forth, and or entertainment that's informative. So with that in mind, we can do almost anything, cover any aspect of news as long as we look at it from an informational and entertaining point of view. And at this point, I don't think we have to necessarily try and make everything entertaining, all the stories entertaining at this point. But that's caught on, and other sites are doing it as well. Also, so it's kind of a challenge, to keep our head above the crowd, as it were. As I was saying earlier, that's always the challenge, is to stand out from the crowd. And we've been successful, but we have a long way to go. And quite frankly, that's one of the reasons I'm talking to the eminent Carl Nelson to help spread the word. And I'm very appreciative of you giving me this opportunity to let those folks who are not aware of EUR Web know about EURweb.com.
All right, it's a great website, folks. You got to check it out. They've broken a lot of stories on EURweb.com. A lot of stories that happen in the black community. That's where people get them from first up.
There you go.
And they break it, and as I mentioned, they're not just centered on entertainment. There's some other stuff, things that are going on in our community. That's where you need to check first. EUR Web. How do you maintain that pace that you started out now, Lee?
Well, I guess, I've been blessed with good health, and, of course I have my aches and pains, but overall, I work like an animal. I get maybe 4 or 5 hours sleep. Fortunately don't need more, and I just go. And the bottom line is, this is how I get my cookie. I love this. This is what I would do for free if need be. It's in the blood. So I don't even think of it as work. Although, of course I get tired a lot of times, but I think it just boils down to the fact that this is what I believe I was born to do. So I just do it and do it and do it and do it. And the great thing about news, that word itself is really the bottom. There's always something new. It just is. There's no shortage of news. Never has been, never will be. So that's what keeps it exciting, because you're not doing the same. Well, it's the same thing in the sense of the job itself, but what you're doing, the stories you're bringing, there's always something new or a twist and turn here and there, so on and so forth. It's exciting.
Right, and that's exactly why I got into radio and got into news, because there's no 2 days are the same, as far as news is concerned.
No way. No, there's no boredom here. There's just drama up to kazoo, and I love it.
How is radio and records, for that matter, changed? Because I just saw those pictures of you guys that you had that radio and records. Was it the Legends?
Oh, you saw those, huh?
Yeah, I saw you in those pictures, Lee Michaels and a whole bunch of other folks, Wendell Bates.
It's a whole different game now. I mean, it's hard to even describe. I don't know if you can even compare the industry to what it was back in the day. And those people, most of the people in that picture are no longer in the business, for one thing, because the business has changed so dramatically that most of us, they were older, we're all older, but the point is, a lot of those people the business changed, and they couldn't keep up, or they were dropped, or their skill set was no longer needed, et cetera, et cetera. So it's almost a completely different business at this point.
And you mentioned the business has changed since when we started, because there are not a lot of black radio stations out there, but even black-owned radio stations, you even get less. Because after you go past St. Louis, I think the only one black-owned is KJLH in L.A.
Really?
So, after you pass St. Louis, it's the last stop. I think that's a Radio 1 station in St. Louis, and then after that, there's a drought.
Oh, man.
So it's pretty tough.
I hadn't thought about it from that point of view, but you're right. Remember what we used to have at least 2 black-owned stations in L.A. That was KJLH and KAC or K whatever. Maybe there was
and KGFJ at one time.
Yeah, that's right, KGFJ. Yeah, so it was and KUT. So at one time, I guess it was 2, 3, 4, 5, or something like that. I guess you guys in D.C. because Radio One have several, but you're right. The situation is just not the same anymore. Fortunately, we can extend that, on the website. You have a lot of black-owned media properties on the website, so there's help there, I suppose. But as far as, and then you have, like we were talking earlier, your online stations where just about anybody can do, but your over-the-air black-owned radio stations, you're absolutely right. There's
and you're right about Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is spoiled because they got a lot of choices. They've got everything here in D.C. But you go to cities like Boston, you go to even where you left from, Pittsburgh,
Right. Matter of fact, in Pittsburgh, there's no black radio station at all. There used to be one black-owned WAMO, Sheridan Broadcasting, but they sold that, so now there's no black outlet, at least FM. I think there's a low power AM or something like that does that, but I think they're gospel. Well, I think they're doing old school R&B, so I take that back. But I don't think they're black owned though. Well, they might be, but it's certainly not what it used to be. They don't have an FMer to cover the market.
Boston doesn't have either. I mean, you got to listen to College Station if you're in Boston, if you want to hear black music. So, which is a big college town, by the way. But you've got a major city like that, and you're black. Wow, it's rough.
Well, in some ways, except for the local element, which you always...
hang on a second, Lee, because we've got to take another break. I'll let you respond on the other side. We've got traffic and weather coming. 800-450-7876, number to call. Speak to the voice. Lee Bailey. We'll take your calls right after this quick break.
This podcast was recorded by BKRPodcast.com.
Our report, 800-450-7876, number to call. Speak to Lee. Lee, before we take a call for you, I'll just let you finish up what you were saying about the scarcity of black radio.
I can't remember exactly the point we were on. If you don't mind refreshing my memory.
We were talking about the fact
all those commercials. I forgot what we were talking about.
We were talking about the fact that people in D.C. don't understand that you go to some cities, there are no black radio stations, or there maybe just be one. And like in Pittsburgh, and a small AM radio station that tries to do everything for everybody. You got a big city like Boston, there is none. You got to listen to college radio if you want to hear some black music or black news. So I think people don't understand how great they got it really in D.C.
Well, yeah, they certainly have it great from that in D.C. from that perspective that they have their choice of local stations. But I think what people have to remember also is that because of satellite radio, which Radio One is involved in as well, they've got their hands in all kinds of stuff. And like we were talking earlier, Internet, not having a local station from a point of view of music in particular. Now, if you're talking local news and items like that you need to stay informed on, that's a whole other thing. But with satellite radio and internet radio, black folk now have the ability to stay on top of all that's going on. Now, back in the day, if you didn't have a local black station, you were just out. I remember in Sacramento where I was stationed there before I got in radio, we were just, and like Omaha, Nebraska, I mean, just all kinds of places where there wasn't a black radio, a local black outlet. You were just clueless as to what was going on in the black community outside of, well, in general, as far as the music and the culture and what have you. Now, of course, you had to depend on your local black, I guess, newspaper if one existed. But, of course, radio was really and is really the driver of black culture, or at least it was back in the day. Now you have the internet as well, but back in the day, radio was hands down the driver and the center of black culture. And if you didn't have a black radio station in your town, well, there was a lot that you were missing, obviously. But that's not the case today necessarily, like I said, with today's technology being available everywhere.
All right, 800-450-7876. Go to line 2. Mark's in L.A. He's a student of yours. Mark, you're on with Lee Bailey.
How you doing, gentlemen? This guy actually used to listen to my air checks when I was in college. I used to send them to him when I got off the air. And he would critique them, and I would sometimes go up to the station or go by his house. And eventually I got a job in adult contemporary and album-orientated rock. And
who's this?
This is Mark Ward.
Mark!
I just wanted to shock you. Okay. I've been knowing him since then.
Wow.
Okay. And he's a good guy. He's committed. You know, he took time out when he didn't have to and gave me some tippers, and it worked out. And I had a nice career and stuff. So I just want to say hello.
Wow.
I'll let you guys get back to the basics and stuff like that.
Well, hey, Mark, it's great hearing from you. God bless you, man.
All right, man. You take it easy.
All right,
You
thanks,
too.
Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling. And Lee, I think that's what we all have to do in this business, you know, because we have to teach the other folks how to get in. And obviously, you taught him well. He's not working in black radio, and that's another thing that, you know, some people just get stuck. No, I shouldn't say stuck, but some people work a long time in black radio, and they haven't worked in any other kind of formats or genres of music, if you will. And it's a whole different ball game on the other side. I've been there, you know.
Yeah, I've worked, I guess, pop radio or whatever you want to call it, crossover radio, whatever. I think the biggest, well, of course, the money is a little better depending on what market you're in. The money is better. Let's face facts, because they have more access to it and more resources. But then, you know, you're still black in a non-black situation, so you have to deal with that. What comes with that, but at the same time, you know, you make the best of it, and but there are more opportunities for blacks in black radio. Unfortunately, I remember one of the things we always had to deal with was the fact that it was hard to get into white radio because you were black, but at the same time, a lot of the white guys could just come over to black radio at the snap of a finger and get a job. That always rubbed a lot of us the wrong way, but it is.
And you know what, Lee, let me interrupt you for a second. The same thing is probably going on right now in black radio. A lot of black radio stations feel they have to have a Latino female in the middays, you know. And I talked to Dr. Claude Anson about it, and he says that person is taking food out of a black female's family. You know, why does black radio have to? That's me.
Yeah, I know. It's political, and it sort of makes sense also, but, you know, if you're looking at it from a point of view, macro point of view, that you want to expand the audience, you have somebody that's representing a more diverse, if you want to try to reach a more diverse audience, you have somebody that can sort of do that, I suppose. And so it's a politically correct thing to do, but bottom line, like you just said, that's taking food out of the mouths of somebody else that needs it also. So it's the world we live in, and it's the skin we're in.
That's right. 800-450-7876. Let's go to line 2. Kim's down in San Diego. Kim, you're on with Lee Bailey.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you. Hi. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Mr. Bailey, because I've been getting your EUR report since I lived in the Bay Area. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for that. And Brother
You're
Tom,
very welcome.
as usual, I just thank you guys for doing this for us on the radio. We need some here in San Diego, though. So, you know, it's a beautiful city. I welcome you guys. Let's connect.
Yeah. Oh, no, you know what? San Diego used to have a local outlet, I guess, as it XHRM back in the day. So what's happening now, Kim? There's no local black outlet in the market again?
Yes, and you're talking about 92.5, which I believe Mr. Willie Morrow had a part in. I'm sure you know his name.
Right, yeah, the Jerry Curl guy.
Yep.
Yes.
But that's no longer around, right?
No, it's not. Unfortunately, the radio station is still there, but Mr. Morrow does not have anything to do with it.
Right. Yeah, they changed format, so that's what I was saying. I don't think there's a local urban outlet in the market. So it goes back to my point about, so how do you stay informed? Is it through a EUR and a Sirius XM or satellite radio, or how do you stay on top of black culture in San Diego?
Between the EUR, is of course not representative of San Diego, but, I'm branching out, so I listen to WOL, and then also, I just try to stay connected to many things here in San Diego, in the community. I do a little bit of activity. I try to stay a little connected, but it's frustrating because, there's a lot of other dynamics that play.
Yeah. Well, Carl, like I said, it's good. See, you're helping fill the void there in San Diego with your program, and I guess the station being available via the web. But at the bottom, we go back to the point. There's nothing like having a local outlet itself serving the local community, and that's where maybe the low power thing can come in, if that's at all a possibility. So. Beyond that, I'm not really sure what the answer is, except for, like I say, at least you have something, whereas back in the day, you wouldn't have anything, period. You'd just be out completely.
And that's sad because, San Diego is a major metropolitan city, and for black folks who live down there, they've got to turn to the Internet to find out what's going on with the rest of the black world.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. Kim, thanks for your call. Thank you, Kim.
Have a good day.
All right, folks. We got about a minute left. Lee, tell us how folks can get the EUR web, because she said she subscribes. Can folks?
Right. That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Just go to EURweb.com, and on every page there's a form where people can subscribe to our newsletter. And if you click on any story and go to that story, at the bottom of every story, at the end of every story, is a sign-up a form you can click on that you can that will allow you to sign up for our newsletter that comes out twice a day that tells you what stories that we have, so on and so forth. So that's a great way to get access to EURweb.com.
All right, Lee, we got to run, but thank you. We got to talk soon. We'll talk off air as well.
All right, Carl. Thank you very, very